The Universality of Islam Part 7. Universality and Solving Problems of Humanity. Humanity today faces numerous critical problems, from individual problems such as alcoholism and sexual diseases, to social problems such as the dire conditions of the elderly, abuse of children and women, and pervasive global problems like wars of aggression. Humanity today faces numerous critical problems, from individual problems such as alcoholism and sexual diseases, to social problems such as the dire conditions of the elderly, abuse of children and women, and pervasive global problems like wars of aggression. If any system of life is proposed for humankind, it should be able to provide preventative measures for such problems. It should also be able to solve emerging problems. There is no doubt that the existence of the majority of our problems in the world is the result of the inability of the existing systems to neither prevent nor solve such problems. Indeed, these systems often seem to encourage the manifestation of and root cause for these problems. 1. Alcoholism and drug addiction. Although some of the existing systems, especially the secular ones, have achieved considerable scientific and material success, which have brought positive changes and comfort to some, their negative impact and pressures have led for many people to resort to self-destructive actions and habits. Consumption of narcotics, drugs, and alcohol has become a universal problem. The magnitude of these problems has transcended health and social consequences, resulting in war between drug smugglers and countries where drug trafficking takes place on the one hand and countries of drug consumption on the other. The crimes of drug and alcohol users vary from public drunkenness or driving while intoxicated to committing rape, manslaughter, and homicide. In the year 1979 alone, police in the U.S. reported 2,137,999 alcohol-related crimes. 83. In fact, the dire effects of alcohol went far beyond this figure. In 1975, there were about 50 million moderate drinkers and 14,000 heavy drinkers in the United States alone. 80. For the reliance of many Americans on alcohol and drugs seems to have grown substantially and has emerged as one of the most costly social problems and the most difficult to control. One might be asked, why has the problem of alcoholism become more serious in recent years? The answer of 5 leading American sociologists is: the last decades in America were referred to as the chemical age, in which people utilize a myriad of substances in order to cope with whatever problems they face. Physical pain, emotional upset, or blocked aspirations. Some have gone so far as to argue that America is a drug culture, and when we consider the enormous quantity and variety of drugs consumed by Americans each year, there may be some credence to this description. Realizing the magnitude of alcoholism and drug addiction, many countries have taken different measures. The United States, for example, banned the consumption and the selling of all forms of alcoholic beverages and other types of drugs in 1920. This was known as the Prohibition Law, which lasted from 1920 to 1933. However, despite the might of the FBI and other law enforcement agencies, it resulted in great failure and perhaps could have never succeeded. As a matter of fact, the enactment of the National Prohibition Act was followed by widespread disregard of it. Illegal manufacturing, transportation, and sale of alcoholic beverages became common. It provided organized criminals a very valuable source of business. The whole experiment resulted in a dismal failure. This very fatal problem is not peculiar to the U.S. Indeed, most societies of the world suffer greatly from alcoholism, more than any other drug. According to a report published in the year 2000 by the Russian daily newspaper Kommersant, 87 2/3 of Russian men die drunk, and more than half of that number dies in extreme stages of alcoholic intoxication. At 57.4 years, Russian men have the lowest life expectancy rate in Europe. The paper reported the results of a 3-year study of men aged between 20 and 55 in the cities of Moscow and Udmurtia that everyone is drunk: murderers and their victims, drowning victims, suicides, drivers and pedestrians killed in traffic accidents, victims of heart attacks and ulcers. Mr. Chernyenko, vice chairman of the National Organization of Russian Muslims, remarks on the matter of alcoholism. One can say that drinking vodka or wine is a significant aspect of Russian culture. Yet I can be a good Russian while not drinking alcohol. Most of the social problems in Russia are caused by alcohol consumption. If we can introduce some Islamic social values to Russia, the society and the country will become stronger. It is beyond doubt that neither Judaism nor Christianity or any other system can provide a workable solution to such a problem. Because alcohol consumption is an essential part of most, if not all, their religious and official occasions, even though it is prohibited according to the teachings of the Bible. The source of their teachings. As for drugs, it is evident that influential sectors of some nominally Christian governments do support the legalization of drugs or have initiated programs, such as the free distribution of syringes to addicts, which encourage drug addiction rather than containing it. During the last 5 years alone, the United States government has spent $52 billion in fighting drugs with little, if any, success. General Norman Schwarzkopf, commander of the Allied forces in the Gulf War, addressed the U.S. Congress on how the prohibition of alcohol consumption in Saudi Arabia made for better and more disciplined American soldiers, June 13. 1991, our sick call rate went down, our accident and injury rate went down, our incidence of indiscipline went down, and health of the forces went up. So there were some very therapeutic outcomes from the fact that no alcohol was available whatsoever in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The Islamic solution. Alcoholism and drug addiction have proven to be unsolvable problems to many sociologists and social activists, not to mention the police force and politicians. Unable to stem their use, the societies where alcoholism and drug abuse have become chronic have ceased addressing underlying root causes. Instead, they concentrate on controlling the effects in a selective and piecemeal approach. For instance, there is not a law that prevents the manufacture, sale, and the consumption of alcoholic beverages, though there is one for driving while intoxicated. The effect, not the root cause, is addressed here, the symptom, not the disease. Pilots can drink any time they want, but not when handling airplanes. Liquor advertising is so prevalent that it has indoctrinated children. Children cannot wait to reach 18 years of age so that they can hastily rush to the closest liquor store to buy alcohol by themselves for the first time, as if it were a treat or the thing to do. All these contradictions and double standards are rejected in Islam. If alcohol is harmful while driving, then it should be harmful at all times. If it is harmful for young people under the age of 18, then it should be harmful for the people at any age. The evidence to the contrary is the horrific number of crimes that are being committed under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Islam, the divine teaching of God, came to eliminate this problem altogether, therefore, it leaves no opportunity for its grave consequences to destroy human beings and their societies. All avenues that lead to alcohol consumption are legally blocked. So, instead of exploiting resources to deal with the symptomatic aspects, the whole disease is prevented. Islam aims, from the beginning, at raising the consciousness of its followers. Thus, outside enforcement is not necessary. One finds many places in the Qur'an where Allah says, "O you who believe, be aware of Allah. O you who have believed, be upright, in responsibility, for Allah, witnesses in justice, and do not let the hatred of a people prevent you from being just." Be just, that is nearer to righteousness. And fear Allah. Indeed, Allah is acquainted with what you do. The Quran 5:8. Islam has established a whole system of life so that all its components work in harmony. Solutions that have been proposed all over the world to solve the problems in question are not compatible with other systems of the same society. As a result, they have led to social chaos. Islam has established a whole system of life so that all its components work in harmony. Solutions that have been proposed all over the world to solve the problems in question are not compatible with other systems of the same society. As a result, they have led to social chaos. Fasting, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, for example, is an institution in Islam that encourages self-consciousness and self-discipline on the part of the followers. Muslims are taught that Allah has made all good commodities permissible and all the bad commodities prohibited, describing the believers as those who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophet whom they find mentioned in what they have of the Torah and the Gospel, who enjoins upon them what is right and forbids them from what is wrong and makes lawful for them the good things and prohibits them from the evil, and relieves them of their burden and the shackles which were upon them. The Qur'an 7:157. When such a belief is established in the hearts of the believers that the Creator of the universe has ordered people not to engage in certain actions or consume certain things, then the law is accepted. Such compliance by Muslims is typical of the early days of Islam. Quraishis, Makkahans, and other existing pre-Islamic peoples used to engage in drinking alcohol as a common social behavior just like the current non-Muslim societies. However, after submitting themselves to the will of Allah the Almighty, they stopped worshipping idols and drinking alcohol as soon as the call from Allah came, enjoining them. O you who have believed, indeed, intoxicants, gambling, sacrificing on stone adders to other than Allah, and diving arrows are but defilement from the handiwork of Satan, so avoid it, that you may be successful. Satan only wants to cause between you enmity and hatred through intoxicants and gambling, and to obstruct you from the remembrance of Allah and from prayer. So will you not resist? And obey Allah and obey the Messenger and beware. And if you turn away, then know that upon our Messenger is only the responsibility for clear notification. The Quran 5:90-92. People all over Medina. People all over Medina stopped drinking immediately. They instantly got rid of their reserves of alcohol to the extent that the roads of Medina turned into streams of wine. They did not hesitate to respond immediately to the divine command. There was no need for the interference of highly trained agents or the exploitation of billions of dollars to stop this destructive habit. This is really where the strength of the Islamic system lies. The people themselves take the initiative and willingly submit, so that no course of action needs to be imposed on them. The willing submission to Allah is behind the decision of millions of people to accept Islam as a way of life. There is no compulsion in accepting religion. The right course has become clear from error. So whoever disbelieves in Taghut, i.e. false deities, and believes in Allah has grasped the trustworthiest handhold with no break in it. And Allah is hearing and knowing. The Quran 2:256. The willing submission in Islam should be contrasted with the grudging social submission of secularist societies. When the law of prohibition was imposed by the United States government in the 1920s, people were not prepared spiritually or psychologically to abide by it. In effect, there was not a system of life in which such laws could be integrated. The force of a man-made law cannot go unchallenged when imposed on people who disagree with it. When there is not a common denominator, things fall apart, because the people live in Jahiliyyah 90, devastating ignorance.